All right, folks. Good afternoon. This is Steve with Real Progressives. Today, we're going to talk about resisting the resistance. That sounds a little crazy, I'm sure. But given the fact that we're already seeing people campaigning for 2020, you've got to start asking yourself the question, what exactly is it that we are doing? What are we doing? You're going to trot out Kamala Harris. They're going to trot out Cory Booker. They're going to trot out Joltin' Joe Biden. What are they going to do? They're going to trot these old dinosaurs out and the new faces they're trying to float out there. And they're going to spend the next 2 years saturating us with their test balloons to see who we have a flavor for, who we're willing to pay any lip service to. And folks, I'm telling you right now, now is not the time. Now is exactly not the time to be focused on who's running in 2020. I'm going to take us back on a trip, 2015, 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign. And I want to talk about what Dr. Kelton said. Stephanie Kelton is chief economic advisor. She spoke very plainly, and she said, when she came on to the ticket, when she came on to help the platform, she had not been given enough time really to instruct Senator Sanders on maybe some of the wording or some of the phraseology for his campaign. So you got a lot of things that Bernie had been working on for the last 40 years said to you over and over again. Now, obviously, going into 2020, it would be really, really great if we could get candidates to talk openly and honestly about how the monetary system works so that we are not left picking apart the ashes of a scorched earth from a climate situation that we were inept to address. So for the next 2 years, I'm envisioning people of conscience, people that are in the know, people that have been woken, if you will, to the realities of our monetary system and how it works, to not give in, to resist the resistance that is going to try to cram candidates down your throat for the next 2 years and rob you of your voice, rob you of your moment, your time to get your message out there, to get it heard. This is extremely important if you think about what I'm saying. Every single Democrat, folks, every single Democrat took a stance that we fight like hell during the primaries, and then we vote blue no matter who during the general. It was like to a fault, man. It was like Borg was in full, all of its glory. If we want to change what Borg says, if we want to change the narrative, they will tell us, hey, the time to have changed the narrative isn't during an election campaign. So if they're going to start campaigning 2 years in advance of the 2020 election, we have a responsibility to resist them. We have a responsibility to pepper truth wherever we have an opportunity. We have a responsibility to speak truth to power, speak truth sideways, and speak it down below. We cannot go into the 2020 election with the party sycophants forcing us to pay attention to their candidates when their candidates are still advancing things like pay-go. Folks, we've got Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the Sunrise Movement going out there and really, really showing some gusto, going into Pelosi's office and talking straight up about the 12 years we've got to get the climate crisis under control, or at least mitigate the disaster. 12 years. If we go and we waste 2 of them playing games with the neoliberal of the day, instead of advancing this fight forward, what we're going to end up with is cutting our 12-year cycle into 6 years. Folks, we need to do things between now and then, not just talk about them. We don't need another committee to ponder this. We don't need another think tank to make a few bucks on it. We don't need another book written about it. We don't need another candidate floating weather balloons up there to see if their messaging sounds better than so-and-so's messaging. As activists, as individuals, as human beings with a brain, we have a responsibility to own this time. Time is ours. You know, the hashtag our time, I'm here to tell you it is our time. This is the time of the activist. You campaigners, you're going to have to step. You're going to have to move aside so that we can fix this narrative. Because, folks, if you don't allow us our space to operate, if you don't allow us the space to reframe this debate so we don't go into this thinking that we've got a false scarcity that we've got to fight against. If you steamroll activists, we all lose. And that's the God's honest truth. We all lose. You know, I look around and you see some of these people that are super exuberant about the holidays. You know, it's not even Halloween and they've already got their Christmas decoration lights up. Folks, that's what it's like when you see these people floating 2020 candidates around. Would you vote for Beto? Would you vote for this person? Would you vote for that person? Folks, put a sock on it. Seriously, put a lid on it. I'll talk to you about your candidates when you talk to me about how the monetary system works. How's that? You willing to talk to me about how the monetary system works? If you are, then I'm willing to talk to you about whether your candidate understands that monetary system. If your candidate doesn't understand that monetary system, why in the world would you tell me to vote for your candidate? We can't afford another economically illiterate candidate. We can't afford a movement of economically illiterate people. Folks, 12 years. We've got 12 years. And that requires a World War II sustained mobilization. Sustained mobilization. Hear what I'm saying. A World War II level sustained mobilization. Massive diplomacy. In other words, we need Axis and allies working together to create climate solutions. And it's imperative that we understand that anything that we can pay for in US dollars, we can afford. Just like anything that can be bought with Australian dollars can be afforded by the Aussies. And just like anything that can be afforded with British pounds, the pound sterling can be afforded in the UK, okay? Just like the Japanese yen. There's literally nothing preventing that other than... So, obviously, YouTube, being the most unfriendly platform at times, decided that it was going to Savat kick me off my own stream, and now I've decided that I was going to Morpheus my way back in. So here we go. I think that it's very instructive that we understand point blank. We understand point blank what's at stake here. A Green New Deal cannot happen if we don't understand. If we don't understand how to mobilize and pay for a Green New Deal, it can't happen. It literally can't happen. You can want one till the cows come home. You can be as scientific as you want to be. Hell, you can know the issue inside and out. But if you think for some reason that the United States is broke and can't afford to do whatever the hell it needs to do to survive, you're wrong. If you think that Japan and the rest of them can't do it, you're wrong. Ultimately, this is the single biggest lie that we have got to overcome between now and 2020. Between now and 2020. Because a candidate that doesn't understand this is going to continue to present the false scarcity narrative. The false scarcity narrative that will keep us in chains. You want to talk about real bondage? The real bondage is the people suffering because we don't understand that a nation that creates its own currency, every time Congress authorizes spending, new money is created. A nation that doesn't understand that will not push for the entirety of a Green New Deal, which we desperately need. There can be no debate about this. There can be no debate about this. There's a lot of things we can debate about. I happen to really like these deep water, hydroelectric desalination type scenarios that do multiple things. They both give you clean water. They can irrigate lands like California. Let's mitigate the hell out of that. But if you don't want to spend the money on these sorts of things because you think the nation is broke, we are in deep trouble, friends. I'm telling you, deep, deep, deep trouble. And for those of you who do not understand what I'm saying here, I'm going to give you the quick once-over of modern monetary theory. This is going to be a real quickie. Back in 1972, the United States and the world left the Bretton Woods Accord. The Bretton Woods Accord was a global gold standard. Once we left that, we are no longer pegged to a commodity. The United States is no longer pegged to a commodity. It's no longer pegged to anything. It's now what they call a sovereign, free-floating, fiat by decree currency. Free-floating fiat regime, as they say. And by having a sovereign, free-floating fiat regime, the only thing that's backing it is the ability to tax in it, the real resources of the nation. In other words, it's a debt. It starts off as debt-driven money. But debt isn't really debt when you are the one that prints it, correct? The only people that can't print the money, as they say, which is a misnomer in and of itself, is we the people. That means even rich people, money doesn't grow on them. It comes from the sovereign, which is the federal government. And the federal government has broad-reaching powers. Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution gives Congress sole authority to create money, folks. Congress, in an act of its own authority, created the Federal Reserve System. Anybody that tells you otherwise is probably someone that needs a little extra help being educated. So what we need to do now is we need to take this knowledge and recognize that we can employ everyone because it's going to require that level of mobilization. We can employ every single person. No more unemployment, a federal job guarantee, and we can put them to work, readying our nation, readying the whole globe for what could be the last hurrah. We can do all these things. We can retrofit every smokestack in the world. But we need the people, we the people, to be able to be knowledgeable. And instead of running around, as I often say, with our fist in the air and signs everywhere, talking about symptoms, putting Band-Aids on heart attacks, why not put our fist in the air and mean it and explain to the Congress critters of the world and the next president of the United States, which had better not be Trump, if we want to save our planet. Oh, our planet will be here. We won't. If we want a chance, we have got to get our head wrapped around how to mobilize using the power of the public purse. Your challenge, should you accept it, is to learn the basics. You don't need to be an economist. You just need to learn the basics of modern monetary theory. And then, after you get that, leverage what we call our each one, teach one strategy and go out there and talk to people about it. We need to create a mass movement of people that understand the severity of the situation and debunk the lies that keep us from the solutions. I need you all. You need each other. We all need one another to get on this train and not allow the resistance to sidetrack us with candidates and weather balloon floating for Kamala Harris and all the other Cory Bookers of the world. And we cannot afford Joe Biden. We already know you, Joe. We don't want you. Take your crime bill and go back to 94. We need new blood in there. We need progressive blood. And we need folks that are not partisans, because once you understand the economic system, once you actually understand it, most of the silly partisan bickering is exposed for exactly what it is. It's bullshit. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives. Have a great day, everybody.